First up is one of my favorite people, very dear friend, who teaches at, who works at Temple University, Dr. Jamie Bracey. Dr. Bracey is one of the most brilliant people I have ever met. I'm working with her on an initiative right now to raise $100 million for African American minority business development in the state of Pennsylvania. And also provide technical assistance to really grow businesses to scale. They're going from one level to the next level. What she brings to the table is just nothing but utter brilliance. And I'm so happy. This young lady is getting married tomorrow, but she thought that it was so important she was going to be here today. I knew she was special when I first met her, and thank you so much for being here today, Dr. Bracey. Please give her a York round of applause.
Now, you know I'm going to say for the record, I got the pastor, the place, the man, and the cake, so we good. And I want to certainly thank Secretary Kirkland for inviting me. Many of my mentors and friends are here. Harold Epps is here from Philly. You'll hear from Joanne Bell, who I am a fangirl of Joanne's, and I'm certainly here because Kim Bracey and I have been circling the universe for a while with that Bracey last name. And I know there's a fierce sister there, so I'm very, very happy to be here with you to bring remarks and really to have a conversation around what I have experienced. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you two quick stories, and then I'm going to talk to you about STEM education and what that means. So the first story is about a couple that sends their 5-year-old off to school. And this little boy got his backpack on his first day of school. He's going to walk into school, and I'm sending him, the couple is me and my husband at that time, and we're going to send him to my girlfriend who runs her own elementary school. So the first lesson I want you to hear out of this is all skin folk ain't kin folk. Within 2 weeks, we're getting a call back from my girlfriend saying there's something wrong with her son. He's educatively, mentally retarded. Now, you know, I invested all of my time and energy and love and God's prayers, and this child, this is my blessing, what you're talking about. And I was a corporate executive at that time. I was not in education. So I went down to the meeting, and the folks sitting around the table are looking at me and saying, your son will never be beyond 5 years of age, mentally. And I'm saying, what are they talking about? Fast forward, they could not understand Naeem because my other girlfriend was from Trinidad and he had her accent. So they decided my son was going to be tracked into the special education program for the rest of his life. So I quit my job at Xerox to homeschool my son. But I had the ability to take that cut because I was married to a man who said, this can't happen. That's the first time I realized that you cannot just trust your children to a system. So that's how I became this sort of warrior mom, and that son has his master's degree in finance now. The second son, the third son, by osmosis, through this process, what I learned is that education is designed as a pathway, but there are multiple pathways to success. And what I also learned is that our folks in the Black community have disproportionately relied on education and trusted our children to a system that is not necessarily designed for their betterment. So I went as part of my education process to understand why my sons were in jeopardy. Because now I'm saying, well, how are my children in jeopardy? And I'm looking at all the other moms. By the time we got to Philadelphia and my sons were in middle school, we had put them in and out of school. My sons were so sick and tired of me putting them in school, taking them out of school. Every time we got an attitude or got a contract, I had to pull them out. Because I became a consultant, right? I had to learn how to hustle and bring money in so that I could stay and train my sons. The second and third son, the second son just graduated from Morgan State with a degree in engineering, electrical engineering. The third son will finish in mechanical engineering at Temple this year. My bride maid, my handmaiden, my aunt, stand up. This is my 14-year-old soon-to-be marine biologist, because you know how fast the time goes up. And I share that to say that I had to be personally responsible for the education process and understanding where did education come from. How many of you have heard of the Prussian education system? How many of you understand where America got its education model from? So we had Horace Mann and a bunch of folks in the 18th century went to Prussia, and there's some argument about it, but what they saw was a state-funded, public-funded education system that the founders of this nation decided we should adopt to make sure, and of course this is for white children, make sure that there's commonality among how people approach the new republic. So there are two things that are extremely important for us to understand. That model was designed to train and sort children into tracks. Low class, middle class, upper class. The high class children did not go to public education. They had private tutors at home. So what we did though is we figured we had the best way we could get access for the bulk of us was to go into public education. I will share with you is that the public education system, as I look at it both nationally and internationally, I've just been named a fellow of the African Scientific Institute, which means across the diaspora, I send information out about how to accelerate the cognition of black children around the world. What that means though is that what are the best ways for black children to learn? How does a church, how does a community development corporation, how does a community center, what roles do we play so that our children can what I call leapfrog? One, they have to know the basics. There is no excuse for not having a strong literacy level. That means on Saturdays, I can't teach STEM if the babies can't read. So how many of you know what STEM is? You've heard of it. So when I started this STEM journey, all right, so by the time I fast tracked into, okay, we need to write policies so children have access to STEM, I didn't become a policy advocate until I came to Pennsylvania. And we'll not talk about the previous administration, I will talk about what the Wolf administration has done and needs to do better. But what I will share with you is that from a policy standpoint, our children are hyper underperforming in the pathways that are most connected to the innovation economy. What that means is our literacy level is so low, the proficiency levels are ridiculously low, that we are personally responsible for this. This is not, again, my role, and I'm not here to beat up on us like Brother Man did at Aretha's at her funeral. I was in Minnesota when that was going down. This is not a bash us conversation. It is really a love conversation. Because for us to pivot the children in York, the children in Erie, the children in Pittsburgh, the children in North Central, the children in Lehigh, the children in Philly, the children in Detroit, the children in Chicago, the children in Cleveland, the children in Miami, the children in Belize, the children in Nigeria, the children in Ghana, the children, you get what I'm saying? This is a global issue that our children are hyper underperforming because they do not read well. So that means every Saturday we reinvigorate Saturday academies for reading. Sundays in church, mosque, temple, children must be taught to read. That means a book a week, book challenges. These are the basics. You would think I would come here talking to you about computer science and engineering. I'm very good at designing those programs. I will help you. But the number one issue is, can they read and can they do basic arithmetic? You do not have to know calculus 1, calculus 2, unless you really do want to become an engineer. But many of the STEM opportunities, so STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, math, right? Those four disciplines are not taught the same. They're very different disciplines, but they were lumped together so we could advocate under the Obama administration for a policy. So when I worked with the Obama administration, to the Young Sisters point, that was a group of very competent people who knew what they were doing. If I came in representing Pennsylvania, I could get in and say, okay, this is how we translate this in our state, in the Commonwealth. I represented the Commonwealth with the Trump administration's STEM meeting in June. So I was selected again to go back in. The number one issue was to try to dismantle the Obama administration's strategic plan. And it was me and two young ladies from Pittsburgh. We couldn't but and took names. Pennsylvania's all over the summary you're going to see. Because we're saying you are not dismantling that. We were able to build on that. And here are the dynamics that we need to understand about where can your children go that are connected to the innovation economy, because that's the work that I have to do now. I have a team that handles our STEM program. My job is to connect STEM talent to small business development, which is why I'm working with Carrie to figure out ways to realign our children with where are the projections for growth for the Commonwealth. We need to be more sensible. Our children are oversubscribed, and it doesn't mean that it's a bad thing to be a criminal justice major, social worker. I'm a psychologist by training. I'm not an engineer. I just figure out the way their brains work. So now I have to reverse engineer the way our children work. So there are three things our children need. One, they need very strong personal relationships both in and out of school. How many of you saw the movie Black Klansman? The takeaway there is that everybody doesn't like black people.
That's right. That's right.
Y'all surprised? But that you never know who's on the other end of the phone. How many of you saw Black Panther? What was your favorite part of Black Panther? Tell me what you like. What do you remember most about that movie?
Very end.
Say it.
Very end. When they went back to the projects.
Very end.
And they talked about the change.
We call that Sankofa, right? We go back to the beginning and bring it back. What else did you like? The Women Warriors. Dora Milaje, right? You can tell I'm a STEM nerd, okay? What else did you guys like? The technology. What did you think about the technology when you saw it? It was wow, right? Let me tell you my favorite part about going to Wakanda. Do you remember when T'Challa was in the plane and they were flying him in for the first time in the beginning of the movie? What do you remember about that scene? They're flying in. What's on the ground while they're flying overhead? They had the herds, right? They got the cattle and everybody run. It's like that Star Trek movie where all we can do is chase our herds and cattle, right? Then they penetrate that veil, and what did you see? A whole different world. I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, kinfolks and skinfolk. Talent is hidden in plain sight. That was the power of that movie. And that's what I submit to you. They're working together to focus our children in education pathways that are aligned with growth. You're going to see the second thing that our children need. Our children love to compete. But they don't get the chance to really compete. Because we have cultures of remediation. You could blow up the entire school district of York's approach to education right now and you wouldn't miss anything. Wouldn't miss a thing. And I submit to you, although we have policies that say we have to be accountable, I think the community accountability is stronger than the accountability to the state right now. That's how bad the situation is in every state that I travel to. I'm sharing with you that I would not care that much whether or not we tested for state standard, the state PSSAs and the Keystones. And I know it sounds sacrilegious because I'm a national expert in education. Sharing with you that the focus on the testing is moving us away from aligning the education to what works best with the children. So if you cannot remove the babies, if we can, we get scared fast. I'll tell you that it was black folks who told me before anybody else to take that bougie mess somewhere else when I started talking about STEM 10 years ago. Sisters were fighting me hard. We don't have time for that. They said the babies can't read. I said, babies can read and. It was the brothers who came in, and this is where we start talking about the Dora Milaje represented the truth about African cultures. That women and men have always shared equal power in our culture. It is a recent thing that we have this gender battle going on within our community where we think differently. But when it comes to our children, we can't afford it. So the brothers came in. 3 gentlemen came to me when I first got to Temple Engineering and said, listen, Doc, can you, and I was in the doc at that time, people were calling me that, putting it in the universe. Doc, can we use that place on Saturdays to teach the kids? And I said, well, okay, what you gonna teach them? How to hustle legally. We started one of the best computer science initiatives in the country. We're recognized by the United States Conference of Mayors because those 24 black men, those little boys were ages 14 to 24, were beating Verizon's professionals in computer science. It took 2 years. Every Saturday for 6 hours for 2 years. When they first won $5,000 from Verizon, I gave them all their money. Then I flew them to Silicon Valley, got some money from a sneaker company to fly them out of Philadelphia to go see where is the magic happening around this #1 issue. So just like they need literacy, they have to have a computer science language. It's not negotiable. Do you hear me? If it's Java, that's a foundational program. Python is a little bit easier to learn. Whatever it is, what is happening with the economy right now in STEM education is that the core skills that are out here for science, technology, engineering, math, for every engineer, there's an engineering technologist. For every scientist, there's an anesthesiologist. There are jobs that are hidden in plain sight where everybody's getting caught up in the STEM and missing the fact that there are a lot of opportunities out here for our children. But they have to be hidden in plain sight. Some of the things that you do don't have to be public. Some of the things that we do to retrain our children do not have to be public. There are 3 things I'll share with you that I've taught our young people to be nationally and internationally competitive. I've shipped some stuff out to a group of boys in sub-Saharan Africa and northern Nigeria in Kaduna State. The world is changing, the climate's changing, correct? What are the top 3 issues as the climate changes to human existence? There have to be new ways to produce food, energy, water. What happened in Puerto Rico requires people with STEM talent to be able to reset civilization. So what can New York be known for? How do you produce food using new sensor arrays and new technology? How do you clean water that may or may not be coming off the Marcellus Shale? Right? How do you use the liquid natural gas from Marcellus Shale drilling to produce what we call hair extensions using ethylene? There are food, energy, water opportunities to teach our children how to do science, technology, engineering, math in economic areas that would benefit us, that we already buy in, and that we could build wealth around. STEM is 10% of the labor force of the United States and produces 50% of the gross domestic product of the United States. 10% of the people who work produce half the wealth of the nation. And our children are right now invisible in this space. So I'll submit to you that what can happen in New York around pivoting education really needs to focus on what the world needs: food, energy, water, or some other creative talents that can attract business to you. #1 issue that I see is that our children do not understand and should understand basic customer service. How to code switch. If you want your children to be known for something in York, it's not just STEM skills. How do they code switch? They have customer service, that people want to come and do business in York. But they want to hire. Where are those kids from that program, from that church, from that community organization? Because you want to develop a relationship so it's no longer hidden in plain sight. It's obvious to the world that York has something to offer of value as this world changes. So I hope that answered questions as we go through the process. Did I hit my 3 minutes? She's holding it up.